Welcome to Channel Make your insight to the Australian visa system. G'day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, be first one getting all the insight. Now we have certainly gone through a very rough 2023, so this video I would like to update you in regards to the skill migration for 2024, noticing that the immigration and visa policy regulations it changes dynamically. So the reason that is the sole reason that we have created this channel, just for you, all the viewers and you, in order to keep you on track and update information in regards to all the visa categories and all the changes. Now you may have watched this one for early 2024, as I always do an updated and renewed version of skill migration at the beginning of the year, but there may be changes be introduced in March, February, July, and going on into September, October, and always in changes. Anyway, let's give you a framework of how the skill migration works, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and share with your friends and mates, so once there's any updates and changes, then you probably just add on the top of the structures that we are talking about today. So despite of the skill migration, it's for 2023, as they have provided a lot of potential changes through the migration review report in April 2023, that's last year. I was excited that there will be a lot of new announcements by 2023. However, there has not been much. But let's talk about the concept of skill migration in Australia. Now, it's, as you can see in this page, this is from the Department of Home Affairs website. The system that they call is Skill Select. I've done a specific video in regards to explain how the system works in detail. You may want to search that in my channel. But just to give you a brief framework, Skill Select is basically a system to select the talents that the Australian government wants. So they will create criteria. We will take a look at what the existing criteria is, and which will be potentially have a major change in the coming month or perhaps to the later of this year. But it basically allows the government of Australia to create different type of criteria where they call point test system. So as long as you meet the threshold of that points through different category of talents within yourself, then you potentially meet the mark to actually get invited. Now the key point here is invitation. Now why do I say that? You may have a look at that on this side here. There is an invitation round. If you can see that, ooh, I'm pointing that, and I'll use my cursors, is right there. Now, what does that mean? It's a major differences between the Australian system and compared to the US and the Canada and UK system, whereby you could technically see the minimum criteria. As long as you meet the criteria, you pay the money, and you can actually submit your visa application. Now it's not a brainer, but for the Australian skill migration system, it's a little bit different. It's invitation based. So if you're not getting invited, you cannot even pay any money. You cannot even lodge an application, a visa application. Now why do they do that? Because it's a way to discard and minimize the disputes. For example, if you pay an application in USA, you have a right to appeal if there is a dispute. Dispute can be either the applicant has done the application was lodged with error or wrong information, or perhaps the administrator of the immigration, for example, the immigration officer, has made some mistakes, and it will potentially open the door for the dispute and go into an appealing process, which is lengthy, time consuming, and obviously cost is involved in there. Now, in the invitation-based system will have a different approach, whereby they will check your background first. You need to submit an expression of interest with all the criterions stated. Obviously, you need to be genuine and honest about it. And once they believe that you have met the criteria, they will invite you. Once you get invited, normally, then you'll be able to pay the visa application fee and lodge for the visa. And that way, it will decrease the numbers of disputes and the appealing jurisdictional or merit process between the dispute of applicant, lawyers, agents, and also the government officials. So it's a great way to do it, but in a post-pandemic era, because of the numbers of the migration quota has been decreased due to all the inflation, housing issues, the way that you get invited is actually getting harder. But we'll have a look how they're gonna approach this. I'm gonna take you a look into a system. A category visa within the system. It's called the skill independent visa, subclass 189, and there's also a subclass 190 and 491. They are all so-called the point test stream, whereby your talents will be calculated in a summation way, how you actually score within the points. So let's have a look at the points table here. Now, just again, I wanted to emphasize that this points table will be changed, and they are also in a negotiation. The Department of Immigration and Home Affairs are in negotiation with all the states and territories, whereby they're going to design a whole new point test table and a whole new structure of how territory and states can actually get involved in this system, whereby they can introduce whichever the add-on criterion provided by the states and territories. Now, currently they do have that system, and I do have many video talking about different states, in particular specific different states. But it's a mess at this point in time, because every state has their own different way of calculating stuff. So it has become so complex, whereby the Department of Home Affairs, from the Migration Review Report back last year, they have agreed to simplify the stuff. But look, they're always talking about simplifying things, but when the government talking about simplifying things, sometimes they make it more complicated, if you agree with me. All right, anyway, I'm just gonna briefly talk to you about how the points will be calculated with the current system, where they will give you a point for the age, a point for the English language, point for your work experiences, whether it's going to be in Australia or outside Australia. There has been a debate where in or outside Australia shouldn't have a different way of points approach, so they can actually have a more balanced and fair about people working outside of Australia, because they also wanted to attract talents from internationally. For example, currently the system, well, it's not, we can't talk about discriminating, but it is, by the way, for the professional ICT, where if you study and work ICT in Australia, you actually get more points than somebody who is probably very talented in ICT profession, perhaps in cybersecurity or software, and they graduate from MIT in US, and they will score much less. Even if they have worked in the Silicon Valley for years, they will actually score less than somebody in Australia, which I don't think in this in this era that will actually work. So there's going to be major changes coming up from this one. Education. So education is not discriminative. You can study either in or outside Australia and score the same, but they do encourage people study in Australia where the Australian study requirement gets you additional point, which is fair. So if you contributed and study in Australia, you get extra points. There's a professional year. It's only open for engineers, ICT professional, and accountants. Don't know why they did that. How about all the other professions? There's no professional year. Whether this will stay, we don't know. There's a lot of people talking about getting rid of this, but anyhow, let's see what happens. If you have multi-language skills, you can take a test they call Potential Community Language. You get extra points, and if you have studied and contributed in regional Australia, you get extra points. Now the partner parts, I'm not gonna go through it because whether currently having no partner, you get more points. Why? Well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that debate there. But that's the current skill migration generally for independent and the state and territory. That's how the point test table has been designed. And there's a major changes will be introduced perhaps this year, because I was expecting last year. They haven't got it done. So I think they'll get it done this year. I think they are in the process of talking and negotiating and communicating between state and territory to actually get a better plan. And also the stakeholder means the business group and industries. Now, next one I wanted to talk to you about, this is also a part of skill migration, is the employment sponsor visa. I've done a lot of employment sponsor visa recently. Now we have also learned that on the 25th of November 2023, a couple weeks ago, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, they have announced the expansion of the employment sponsor visa, where they drop the required work experiences down from 3 to 2 years, and all type of skills occupation is can be transferable to become a permanent resident, which is big. So I believe this will be a major changes coming up here, and especially I want to talk about in later second half of this year 2024, where they're going to roll out so-called skills in demand visa, which is basically a replacement of the current 482 TSS visa, but they're gonna throw in different pathways, and these pathways will have a major changes towards how they attract talents. So one is a specialist skill pathway. Now what I'm talking to you now is they have put it in play but haven't implemented with the actual regulation and policies. Specialist skill pathway avoids all the trades and technicians. Apart from all trades and technicians, as long as your annual income at all offer is above, I believe, 120,000, you can be sponsored with a very prioritized processing time. I think they say about 7 days. So you can actually get this. This will be very, very, very similar to how they approach global talent visa in Canada. Now the global talent visa in Canada is different than the global talent visa in Australia, because global talent visa in Australia gets you to permanent residency straight away. Now in Canada, no, and UK, no. So this specialist pathway is very, very similar to how they approach a global talent in Canada and UK, whereby you are highly paid, you got a highly offer, you get a job in Australia, and obviously 2 years, same thing, you pathway to permanent resident, and you get that prioritization there, and you can avoid the skill assessment. I believe you still need to get English, and you can avoid the occupation in the generic way. So it's a better way to do it. Now the core skill will be something that they wanted to correlate between what we just talked about, the skill migration with the points table, and also I'm not too sure how they're going to do it, but I will say it will be very similar to the current 482 visa where they will still have an updated occupation list. So I think that will be a merging of the short term and the medium long term together to make it a core skill pathway. Whether or not they still requires 2 years of work experiences, just like for what 482 visa requires, it's a question mark. Don't know about that because they were looking to drop down the sizes and the numbers of application of 485 visa, but that's another topic I'm going to talk about here today. Now the other one is they're going to go into these essential parts where they will essential, I think they call it essential stream, which is more and less than the similar to the current Dharma labor agreement, the LA. So not too sure how they're gonna approach that one, because currently it's quite complex, where the employer is required to enter into an agreement with the Commonwealth Government of Australia, where there is a templated agreement. It's lengthy, it's time consuming, but there's a way that the employer or the business group could actually talk to the Australian government in regards to how to shape this new agreement in order to get the employers in. But anyhow, that's for the skill migration 2024. It's going to be an exciting year, because what we had expect of the changes in 2023 didn't even arrive. Well, that will mean there will be a lot of changes coming up in 2024. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, share with your mates, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.